This will surge crypto. What is it? We're going to be talking about it, and let's think about the volatility that's likely going to be coming in today. We got a guest that's going to be coming on as well. As I'm doing the intro that's happening right now, I'm also retweeting this on the BitLab Academy page. We are live streaming on both X and here on YouTube, of course. So wherever you're watching from, I appreciate the love, the support, being here. If you would, if you do like crypto content, it does make a massive difference when you go and retweet, especially if you're on X. We are randomly drawing a day of the week and then a random person from those days of the week of people that did retweet. So go ahead and show some love, share this out with your friends and family. We're going to keep you in the know of what's going on in these charts. We're going to be getting going here in about 15 seconds. We're talking about the market surging, but at the same time, we got to look at this chart right here. We've got a lot of liquidity below us, as you can see. So there is still call for caution, but all of the signals that I'm looking for that suggest risk may be coming back in the market are starting to load up. We're also seeing signals that dumb money, which I hope none of you are selling into the smallest little pumps, and big money is stacking up. We actually finally had a positive day in the markets yesterday in terms of the Bitcoin spot ETF flows. First time, I believe, this month. But when we're looking deeper at what's going on in this market, we can see that, oh my God, that's on the 1 hour chart. But let's go ahead and look at just the candles. I just want you to notice something. We had this rising wedge that we've fallen out of, and we've essentially, yes, have a higher low, but we have not really, I mean, let's look at it even a little bit more broadly. We have not done anything outside of just staying in the middle of this range that we have been in for almost 7 months now. So we need to be a little bit patient right now as the market is still resolving to what direction it wants to go. But I think most people will agree with me, and that can be concerning, that things do suggest upside is in the near future. The question is, are you jumping at every 1 minute candle with a $100 pump and then getting chopped out back to the downside? Because there's some signs and signals that, although I do think this signal that we're going to be talking about here in a few minutes will absolutely skyrocket Bitcoin and the crypto markets, that does not mean it's going to happen today or tomorrow. In fact, we have a major day with impacts on the speculation around what things can be happening in this market and what's discussed tonight on that big stage. But in addition to that, we're still waiting on some of the signs and signals regarding what's going on geopolitically. So we got to dive into that. And again, we got a great guest coming on here in a few minutes, but let's go ahead and dive in. By the way, everybody, if this is your first time here, I can guarantee you it's not going to be your last. My name is Kelly Kellum here with BitLab Academy, a source for you to get meaningful content, signals, levels, technical analysis, and most importantly, positive community. There's so many trolls out there. My aim, my goal, my mission in every stream is to make sure I can bring you a very balanced look at what's going on. While I might be very bullish, for those of you that watch the channel, you'll see that on Saturday, we had one of my friends here on the channel that had a little bit more of a bearish outlook. We have to explore what the possibilities are in both directions so we don't get caught in a trap as much as possible. We want to be a victim of our successes, not a victim of our failures. So let's go ahead and talk about what's going on, because we got to look at the fact that Bitcoin, is sitting around $57,000. It's still sitting at $1.1 trillion. The market is down, or it's right back at $2 trillion. But there's still going to be some time. We want this market to go up all the time. And so we make stupid decisions and have less capital available to ride that trend to the upside because we jump at every move. So we want to talk about that today. And also looking here, we're seeing, in this, this is on the day, but if we go to the hour, we're seeing, some things moving. We're seeing some things moving up. We're seeing some things moving down. The majority of the market is starting to feel a little bit more bullish, but that does not mean it's an immediate trend that is going to fully facilitate. Now, before we dive in here, I do want to shout out our channel partners, Constellation DAG. I just wanted to highlight a couple things going on because, as you all know, they have an incredible hackathon going on right now, and I'll get more to that in just a second. But we're going to be looking at, before we dive into that, we're going to be looking at some technical analysis, some key levels. We got Matthew Hyland coming on here in just a few minutes. But we also have to talk about some of this other data that is present. So as we dive into this, I just, again, want to shout out Constellation DAG. He's made some really great points here. This is Dagnum PI's page. He says 68% of businesses plan to adopt instant payments. I can absolutely see this. I would imagine this would be higher, but 34% cite a lack of anti-financial crime expertise as a barrier. 82% are deterred by high upgrade costs because a lot of people are just ignorant to how all this stuff works and it changes the process. But 48% worry about fraud and data theft risks. These are real concerns as companies move into this new digital age and the new rails that we have that are blockchain. But as he says here, Constellation DAG Metagraphs fixed this. And one of the many reasons companies like Panasonic, one of the larger companies in the world, Microsoft, one of the largest companies in the world, IBM, are all working with Constellation DAG. In fact, you can see right here during today's Genfinity IO with Constellation, it was mentioned by Kevin Jackson that the IRS has submitted an RFI with the NDF. They're working with the Department of Defense, U.S. Air Force, IBM, Panasonic, Microsoft, and so many others. And now, remember, they've been doing this in the background for years, but they have been really working towards getting the retail involved. And this is why they have the hackathon going on. In fact, they're also doing a meetup in Tokyo, Record Bar in New York here in 2 days. So I wanted to highlight that. If you wanted to go meet up with those people, basically check out this link. It will show you what's going on. And then again, the hackathon that's going on, based on developer and community requests, the hackathon deadline has been extended to 4 p.m. on Wednesday, the 11th. So they're still allowing more metagraphs and other developments to be submitted. So showcase your creativity and innovation by developing metagraph projects with $100,000 DAG prizes available. And if you want to look more into that, come right here to metagraph.devpost.com and you can see they got almost 700 projects building on that through this hackathon. So with that being said, I just wanted to say we got to highlight things that we think are meaningful in this space, and Constellation DAG is one of those projects I think is an absolutely undersung gem in the space. We are partners with Constellation DAG. We only take partners that we believe in, and I think that they are going to be doing some great things. So now let's dive into it, because what's going on right now is there's, of course, been a huge amount of development in this ecosystem. And I do want to highlight, this story kind of got a little bit passed over a couple of weeks ago, and that is that Sonium by Sony will create a stable coin for the Japanese yen with Sony Bank. So Sony, foraying into the crypto ecosystem is a major event. You all need to realize that when we see these dominoes falls of major global players working to integrate crypto and blockchain into what's going on within their systems and within integrating within their technologies is a major thing. And in fact, also, we've all seen a lot of this stuff going on with the Japanese economy, and they are also starting to, basically trying to launch a stable coin on the Japanese yen, which is great because that is a major economic hub in global finance and global projects. Now, moving on from that, we also, this is really what I want to highlight. Capital flowing from the weak hands to the strong hands. This happens when you don't have a plan. This happens when you're not looking at the data of what's going on. In fact, you can see this quite clearly if you zoom in on this. This is a short-term holder net position change. Look at this. This means closing out those positions. And then what do we see on the next chart? Long-term holder net position change. Buying up the stupidity. That's what this is. So the question is right now, are you being smart? Or are you looking to the future, or are you acting emotionally and just here to buy another rich person, another boat, and another house? That's what the question is right now when we are navigating these markets. So we don't need to go anymore on those charts because I want to get into the TA here in just a few seconds with Matthew Hyland. And this is another one right here. That small little pump we had. Remember, I was talking about the realized holder, the short-term holder realized price, meaning the average price that all these short-term holders, 1 to 3 months, everything sub 155 days, the average price, those coins change hands. So when the price action goes below that realized price, that means the majority of those short-term holders are holding at a loss. And so when you see this small push up like this and this large output right here, this is a short-term holders. Look at this, 1 to 3 month, just absolutely unloading as we got that small push up. In fact, it was 14,816 Bitcoin on this small little move. And my question is, when we're looking at the macro and we see this macro structure that is quite bullish, even though we're looking to downside potentials as a cautionary tale, for me, on my large positions, anything in my long-term holder portfolio, I'm not touching anything here. I will add to positions if this drops, but I'm not going to chop out my portfolio because, oh my God, it's still traveling sideways. It's traveling sideways, basically, in a minus 20% range of the previous all-time high from last cycle, right when we have some really big news that's coming out here in regards to the risk narrative here. And that is, one, let's look at the short-term time frame here. We have the push, the small breakout here on the 4-hour. In addition to that, we also see right here the RSI broke out, but this is that signal that I'm talking about. This is a global liquidity index. Look at the Bitcoin price as it relates to what's happening with global liquidity. And this has been tracking it entirely. So is Bitcoin really having a problem? Is Bitcoin really having an issue? Is it weak when you see that it's actually just riding the waves of what's happening with the global liquidity index? And what we've seen on the global liquidity is it's starting to break to beyond previous all-time high. We're seeing the People's Bank of China starting to tick back in. And historically, the second half of the year is when that flood really comes in. Now, I do think that there's a little bit of a truncation, a little bit of a slowdown on what's going to happen in the immediate future because we have a huge date coming up in November. And I do think there's going to be maybe a little hesitation on what the decision is with this liquidity cycle happening here in the US alone. But we also have next week, FOMC. We have the Fed rate cuts likely. How is that going to impact what's going on? And is there going to be other types of stealth quantitative easing first, or are they just going to start kicking things back in to float the market? Now, we can go into this later. I want to throw it over to one of my favorite people in the space. He's been battling with the chicken lately, and he is a little bit under the weather from that. But let me go ahead and take off this Telegram deal. How you doing, Mr. Matt?
What's going on? What's going on, Kelly?
Hey, man, these markets are moving, and then they're not, and then they feel like they're going to move, and then they don't. What the hell's going on, my friend?
Well, we'll look at the chart to start. If we look at the Bitcoin chart, the last few days or last week or so has been interesting. Bitcoin dropped below this 56.1K area, but then it found support down here at around 53.3K and has since bounced. And the goal for the bulls was to reclaim this area right here of 56.1K. And if you look on the daily time frame yesterday, we were able to do that. So the bulls are currently showing some sort of strength here, but they need to hold the 56.1K area. There is some resistance that we're running into up around this area, I'd say, around, I guess, like 57.5K. We kind of tested it. We got above it. So that's pretty much the next area of resistance. But if we zoom out, Bitcoin has essentially been in a series of lower highs as well as lower lows for the past 6 months. So if we go back to March, let me go to the 3-day time frame to look this look a little bit different. If we go back to March, we essentially had a lower low. Well, that wasn't the first lower low technically. So this was the first lower high right here. And then a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, another lower high. So now really the goal for the bulls at this point, if they want to confirm that this is the first higher low right here, which we wicked down to over the past week, we would need to break above this 56 or 65K level. If we can get above this level right here and put in the first higher high, this would be the first sign that the bulls are starting to break this downtrend that we've been in, it's pretty significant, actually. I do think if we did get up to this area, there would be some resistance at this downtrend line. But really, the first area is getting through 65K. 65K is the area of importance, I think, because it's also possible, right, that we come up here maybe, and then we continue to roll over and then end up making that lower low, right? So really, the only way for this to confirm as a higher low right here over the past week would be to make a higher high above 65K. So pretty much all eyes are on 65K. That's the area that Bitcoin has to get through. It'd be the first higher high in 6 months. We just been downtrending for a while, so this would be significant. And we're only at around almost 57K currently. So there's some work to do. I do see a lot of people kind of prematurely calling this a higher low. Like I said, we could come up here and then continue to roll over, and then it doesn't end up becoming a higher low. The only way to confirm this is by making a higher high at this point, and then we could confirm that this was a higher low, and then we would know that the trend perhaps is now changing.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm right there on board with all of that, and I think this is it's interesting as this is resolving with the potential setup. Everybody, we all have to remember these are potential setups until there's confirmation. It feels like there's a little bit of a potential setup for that, at least mildly bullish, even if it's just a retrace bullishness into the middle of September, going into the end of September. And I've kind of called out and highlighted the potential even for a move all the way up to that upper resistance line you have before another, big shakeout to the downside. That's a possibility, so we can't just front run it with 60x leverage and just forget about it, because there's a lot of chop, I think, on the horizon between now and the beginning of November. If I had to guess, I do have a bullish bias about some likely bullishness in October. But as it stands right now, we just have to take it one day at a time.
Yeah, definitely. And I do think I've been, reinforcing this for a while, the same message. I think that September and October are not going to be too exciting, but I think maybe later into October or early November, we'll start to get out of this range that we have been in just for so long, just based on the election history. The election is November 5th, and usually historically Bitcoin has started to move up after. And I show this every single time, and it gets boring repeating it, but it's just, you have to keep reminding yourself, because there's a lot of people that would be like, oh, we're going up. Maybe we'll go to the moon today. Maybe we'll break 70K within a week. It's probably going to be another month or so, but we are very much close. We're a lot closer than we were a month or so ago when I first started bringing it up and coming on this show. We're definitely getting a lot closer. It's already September 10th. I think things will start to get moving at some point, just based on the history of the election cycles and what we've seen every single in 2012, 2016, and 2020, and even last year as well, during this time frame.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. One of the things that you've actually been showing on here over the last month, and we're starting to see a little bit of life there, or more life there, is you've been showing the FET chart as well as some of the other AI stuff. And, I think based on some of the Apple comments and exposition yesterday with the new iPhone, it's getting a little bit, the AI sector is getting a little bit of a nice little push. And look at that beautiful inverted head and shoulders.
Yeah, I think I had drawn this out. So I do have a Patreon, so I do show this to my Patreons. And I showed this to them a while ago. We were actually entering down here at around 90 cents when it broke this area. But this does look like an inverse head and shoulders. And we had drawn this down at the low. We said, hey, look, this, let me go to the daily time frame. It'll look even a little bit more cleaner. This looked like an inverse head and shoulders. So this neckline, if it were to break, this would be quite significant for FET or ASI. So this does look like it has the potential to make an inverse head and shoulders. This only would get confirmed if this neckline was broken. The neckline is around $1.50-ish area, give or take. So I've been watching this, and we'll keep on watching this going forward. And I do think, with the AI stuff, I mean, it's probably just going to continue to snowball. It's been like the strongest narrative overall across the stock market, even in crypto for the past year. and I think it's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger. And I do see a lot of people consistently calling tops, especially on NVIDIA. But I think we don't know where it's going. It's a game changer. It just is what it is, and I think there's a lot of demand for it, as evident by what we're seeing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now, are you seeing anything? Is it all same? What are you seeing in Ethereum? Is there any? Yeah, others chart is actually a good place to start.
This one, yeah. So if we look at others, others came back down to this lower area once again, and it needs to hold on here. It did. It so far has held on. I would say if you look at others, if it can get a rally right above this area, which is at around $227 billion, this could be a double bottom right here. But the only way for this to confirm would be to break above this area. So this is like a typical standard looking double bottom where you come down, you bounce, you come back up, and then go back down, touch it again. And then when you break out of that, that's a confirmed double bottom. That would also be the first higher high for others, basically, since going into this downtrend back in March. So if others, which is low cap alts for the most part, it's alts outside the top 10, were to break that, then I do think alts, especially the lower cap ones, will see a lot of strength going forward. I think this would almost confirm the end of this downtrend that we've been in, but it needs to get up there. Obviously, we're sitting right down here currently, so it has some work to do to get back above this, but it would definitely be pretty significant if it can, because this is really just holding on. This cannot make a lower low right here. This would be a macro lower low for others. We don't want to see this level lost. It would be pretty significant if we lost this at this point. We've held on. We've tested it twice. So it just needs to hang in there at this point and, bounce and get this higher high for the first time in 6 months.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot on the line if the others chart does pull, if Bitcoin pulls down a little bit more and does that, we very well could have a swing down to 44 or something like that, and it'd still be within the range that it's in. But I think there's a lot of emotions tied into right now. I forget who was saying it. I was listening to a discussion earlier. I think there's a lot of people that feel like they're on the cusp. They're kind of over allocating because they're on the cusp of making life-changing money, but because they're so over allocated, they jump every time the market moves even a percentage point against them. And I think, unfortunately with altcoins, while I have a lot of altcoins, I do have, I'm disproportionately, I try to keep more of the larger cap stuff so that when the markets do have some sort of pullback, like if the others loses that level, I think there could be, across the board, anywhere from 10 to 20 to 40 to even 60% drops on some of those smaller cap alts.
Yeah, if we were to see that, it would be pretty significant. It would almost, I think we would end up going back to this lower range down here. I guess this is from May. Actually, that would be almost a 50% or 60% drop if we went back to this lower range down here. If we lost this, I think the target would be down there as well. If you measure this as a head and shoulders pattern, I think it was around 87 billion. So it would be down here. So we do not want to see that. It's definitely in a testing point overall. If I go to, let's see, Ethereum. So Ethereum is actually interesting. I was looking at this the other day, and this is quarter 4 and quarter 1 of, this was 2016 and 2017, right? So this is quarter 4 of 2016 and quarter 1 of 2017. And this is when Ethereum started to see its, the start of its move up. And then if you go to quarter 4 and quarter 1, this is 2020 into 2021, you also saw this move up. So the interesting thing is we're about to enter that period now in October, where historically over like the last 2 election cycles, last 4 years, and then in 2016, this was when Ethereum began its first move up. And we're right there with Ethereum, and maybe it takes more time than this one. It took until really actually January to start moving up, right? This time back here, it started in October, and actually really around September or August. So it bottomed in August, similar to how it bottomed back in August. Here, it kind of actually did something similar if you look, where it bottomed. It bottomed in August right here, and then came back and retested it near the end of September, actually. And then from there, it bounced. And we see the same thing here. We bottomed in August, the start of August. This was actually the end of August back here. So it was about a month after then we had the second bottom. This is similar. Start of August, month later, start of September, second test of this lower area. So perhaps we could be at the cusp of something right here. Time will tell. Obviously, if you recall back in 2020, the Ethereum sentiment was pretty, I'd say it was even worse. And it's easy to, like, in retrospect, look at this chart and say, like, oh yeah, Ethereum, did so well. But when at this point, right, Ethereum was only $325. The all-time high was around $1,400 or $1,500. So Ethereum was still down 80%, right? So Ethereum currently now is around, I think, like 55% down. But if it was 80% down from this high back here, it would only be $1,000. Imagine if Ethereum was only $1,000 right now, what the sentiment would be, right? People would be losing their minds. Yet last cycle we were down here. That's where we were. We were down 80% in September of 2020. This was almost 3 years at the top, and Ethereum sentiment was not good at all. And then once when Bitcoin cleared the all-time highs in December, which came around here, that's when Ethereum just took off and then outperformed Bitcoin, and then put in its cycle top, I think, against Bitcoin at that point in May. So around this time frame, this was the cycle top against Bitcoin, not against USD. But yeah, Ethereum. So despite the way Ethereum is looking today, it did this exact same thing last year and was actually performing much worse, and then ended up taking off completely. And a lot of people, I think, were not prepared for this. And I remember when this run started, it was just look at it, just straight up. This is on the weekly time frame. You look at this run, it was just beautiful. Just straight move up. Then it broke this all-time high, and then it kind of retested this and then went straight up. And before you know it, Ethereum went from $350 in September of 2020 all the way up to over 4,300 in May. So it was over a 10x gain, and it was crazy to see. And people at that time were not expecting that much either. People were very down on Ethereum, and then it ended up happening. So even when things are looking, bleak or not hopeful, things can always change pretty fast too.
Yeah, I mean, things can change in a blink of an eye. It could just be hinged on statements made tonight. It could be a declaration or a data that's found showing that there's been an increase or change in even the stealth QE, meaning like the reverse repo market and the different liquidity injections they're doing. Because I do think I have noticed that they're sort of not changing their tune, but it feels like they're changing some of the mechanisms, how they're using different tools to get liquidity in the market, because everybody's so hyper aware of this now. And I think, there could be a statement by a partnership of a major tech CEO, but it could go in both directions too. There's a lot of things on the line right now, and I'm definitely bullish towards the end of the year. I mean, like from between now and the end of the year, I do think we will be higher than now. Do I think we'll be beyond all-time high before that date in November? It's hard to say because everything feels so contentious at the moment. But I think if I had to make a bold statement, I do think that we'll break beyond previous all-time high before then. And it's just a matter of when. And if it doesn't happen, I still think that we're going to be bullish into the end of the year.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. And obviously, I think the market at this point, especially the crypto market, is waiting on the election. Since the election pretty much is very tied to crypto at this point, just based on the stance of Gary Gensler and whatnot. And obviously, as we know, Gary Gensler has continued his attack against crypto for the past few weeks. There was more lawsuits, I think 2 weeks ago against OpenSea. And then I think there was another one. I think last week there was another SEC lawsuit, but it was actually against something to do with FTX and some company that was custodying it. So maybe that lawsuit was actually justified, perhaps. But I think overall, if you look at like the SEC putting out lawsuits this late into the game at this point, then the SEC is expecting this anti-crypto stance to continue into next year. Because why would you file a lawsuit today if you know that this is all going to get dropped regardless of who wins? So obviously, they probably are confident. They're confident enough to file a lawsuit with the expectation that these lawsuits are going to play out into 2025, into 2026, because these lawsuits will take multiple years, as we saw with the XRP lawsuit. The XRP lawsuit took about, I think, 2, 3, or even 4 years to play out. So, yeah, I think we at this point, in my opinion, I think the writing's on the wall that the SEC, if Gary Gensler gets to stay, he's going to he's going to be able to continue to do his anti-crypto charade. I think that's evident with the lawsuits, and I think people that are in denial of that at this point, like, you just ask yourself, why would he be still filing lawsuits at this point? If he would have known, that this is a waste of time and whatnot. I think it's apparent that he's been given the green light, and I think they want to continue to, throttle this industry, and it's been definitely playing a role overall, especially for the alts. Nearly every single altcoin has been sued. Any top altcoin has been sued. All the top crypto companies, the venture capital firms. It's been everything, anything and everything to do with crypto. The NFT now with OpenSea, and I don't think it'll end. I think they're going to continue to file more lawsuits over the coming years if they can get their way. I don't think there's any end in sight if they get what they want.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now, in case anybody rolled in here a little late, before you go, break down, just show us the levels, the primary levels you're watching on Bitcoin right now. And there's a global liquidity. Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to show you the M2 money supply. So the M2 money supply is continuing to expand. This actually updates at the start of every month. So this was the July. It's about 2 month lagging, I believe, the M2 money supply data. So we now have the July data. And as you see, the M2 money supply increased. We're still not where we were at the end of 2022 or at the start of 2022, but it's definitely starting to move up. And obviously, if you look back at this chart historically, it's just been in a massive uptrend, and it'll probably continue to be in a massive uptrend, not surprisingly.
Yeah, I like to look at this chart also from Rational Root pulls this data together. It's all the world economies, global liquidity. And on this metric, and it's primarily because of People's Bank of China and Japan, but these are, expanding beyond previous all-time high. But what you just signaled also, I think, is with the chart you showed with that M2 money supply, I think is important because it speaks to the importance of what it speaks to the importance of what the U.S. money supply is doing, because it's such a big impact on what the risk narrative is here in the Western world. And I think with both of when this breaks past previous all-time high, I think the market's already going to be sending.
Yeah, I agree. Whenever this does, I think it's just going to continue to fly upward. And I think it's going to happen at some point. And really, if you look at this chart, right, at the top, it was around 21.73 trillion. The Fed only got it down to 20.7 trillion. So they only, the whole, what was it called? The monetary, what's the term for when they were retracting this? I can't think of it right now. Not easing, but the opposite of easing, it would be
tightening.
Tightening, yeah. So their whole tightening cycle, they only were able to get this down $1 trillion, which was about not even 5%. So really, if you look at this, we're still like way higher than where we were at the start of 2020. In 2020, let me go back to, let's say, March of 2020. This was right around here. This was like around 14 trillion. So we saw a 50% move, and then we only got 5% pullback. So the amount of money that is out there is still incredibly high. And that's why everything went back to all-time highs after the 2022 bear market, because the amount of money out there is just incredibly high. It just came down to that. Bitcoin went back to all-time high. Stock market went back to all-time high. Gold went back to all-time high. Everything went to all-time highs across the board, a lot of stocks and everything. So yeah, the amount of money out there is still incredibly high, and it's probably going to at some point break out once again. Now, if we go to Bitcoin, you were saying for the levels to watch for.
Yeah,
it's really
I always forget that I'm muted when I go to the other screen.
Let's see. It's really just, I'd say, hold on to 56.1K. That would be the first, build support around this level. Let me mark this out. Build some support around this level, and then I'd say the level I've been using the 23, I think it is SMA. Let me just double check. No, 43. I wonder why. Okay. Regardless, I think this area has kind of been clean for the past year or so, where when we break above this, we move up. Then when we lose it, we lost it here, we went and made the low, lost it here, made the low, lost it right here, made the low, and then lost it right here again and made the perhaps higher low. So this falls at around 59.5K. So if we can get back above that area and break back above this, I think we'll maybe have a chance to put in our next, we'll see if it's a higher high or a lower high, but I think we'll get a push then if we can get through this 59.5K area based off this SMA.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do think, I think that there's a likelihood of a little bit of choppiness going through the day, even looking at a very small time frame. This is a 7-minute chart. Even just consolidating into here until a sort of whipsaw based on discussions being made. But I think everything is it's getting so compressed on the data right now and speculation. But I think I really think the underlying bullishness of what has been built, especially since January 11th, the amount of appetite we're seeing from institutions, and the fact that, we're getting Russia integrated with international settlement within Bitcoin and China as well. And then in addition to the softening regulation on Chinese mining, there's a lot that just leads me to feel so bullish. I'm curious, everybody watching right now, whether you're watching on X, please retweet the live stream if you're on X. Remember, we do a random drawing on Friday. We pick a day and then we pick a random person. For those of you that are supporting getting the word out there, we do appreciate it. What was I saying? Let me know in the comments, whether you're on X or here on Twitter in the live chat or down below if you're watching later. Do you think we're going to break past the $74,000 mark by the end of October, by the election date? Do you think or not? Put a Y or an N, whether you think we will or won't break this most recent previous all-time high.
Let's see what they say. So for me personally, though, I think I'd say by the end of the year, that'd be my answer. I think before the end of this year, so within 3.5 months, I think it's set up to do that. And I think once we get through the election, so for Bitcoin at least, and even the stock market, let me go to the S&P 500. Usually heading into the election, the stock market kind of goes sideways as well. And let me see, let's go to the weekly time frame. If we go back to 2020, let me draw a box out, make it a little bit more easier. This was from August, essentially, till November. And then we had the election, and then it went up after. So all this upside was not priced in. And then if we go back to 2016, we're right here. Okay, so this is August, and then the election was right here, I guess. And as you can see, all this upside that occurred after was not priced in. We kind of went sideways from August into the election, and then we go to 2012. This is around right here, August into. So the election was right there. So we kind of bottomed, I guess, after. But regardless, all this upside was not priced in. So I think for especially the stock market, I don't think the stock market is really affected as much by the politics. As you can see, we had a Democratic president win in 2012. We went up after. It wasn't priced in. All this upside wasn't priced in, but we went up after 2016. We had a Republican president win, and all this upside was not priced in. And then in 2020, we had the Democratic president win, and all this upside was not priced in. So I think with the stock market, especially, it's not affected as much. And for some reason, despite that, investors still kind of wait for the election to take place before before all this upside gets moved in. I think you switched the chart.
Yeah, I was just switching to showing that.
Okay. Yeah, if you have it. No, if you have
on crypto.
Yeah, if you have it, you could definitely pull it up. So as far as the equities go, I think usually after, and I think now Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, even Ethereum, because of the ETF, I think they're kind of out of so they got the ETF approval by the SEC. So I think they're more tied to the equities. So I think for both of them, I think if the stock market continues up after over the next year or so, as we saw with the last 3 elections, and I think Bitcoin's going to follow it too, and then break upward as well. I think the alts just currently are very dependent on the lawsuits and whatnot, and what's going on with that. But we'll have a resolution to that, and then we'll see what happens. Essentially, we'll find out if we're going to be stuck in court for a few years or if we're good to go, essentially.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. And I just want to shout out again, everybody, if you are paying attention here, Matthew Hyland is one of my favorite analysts in the space, and you can make sure that you're following him here at Matthew Hyland. That's 2 T's, Hyland _. This is it right there. Make sure you're following the correct person. There's so many fake profiles out there. He also has a YouTube channel right here, and he does his own Patreon as well. So make sure you're giving him a follow. Is there anything else you wanted to wrap out with before I wrap out the rest of the show?
No, that's pretty much it. I think we covered pretty much everything. We'll see what happens. We'll see if Bitcoin can hold this 56.1K area, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, you know what? Right now it's just patience.
Yeah.
But that's all I got with you, Mr. Matthew. Thank you for coming on. I know you're trying to catch up on some rest from an angry chicken that is battling your stomach, but I'll talk to you again later.
All right, I'll see you, Kelly. It's good having you, or good being on the show.
Thank you, brother. Adios.
All right, bye.
Everybody, make sure you're following him. We got some more TA to do. We got some more charts to look at and etc. Sorry if his mic was making some noise when he was hitting the desk, but you have to realize when we get into this crypto game, none of us expected to become audio visual professionals on top of it, which comes with all this streaming. I also do want to shout out, I think it was KJam, and then somebody else said it here. Big Tip Shark. If let me know, are you referring to the verify on the Telegram group or in Discord? Because there's 2 different verifications. If you are doing it in the Telegram group that we have with our partnership with CoinW, and by the way, we are going to get in some TA here in a moment, so stick with me. If you're on Twitter, the link is directly below. Where did it go? I just had it a second ago right here. If you're on Twitter, you will see this directly below this post. You can see this is the link right here. It's also, if you are on YouTube, it is directly below right here where it says Free Traders Group. Boom. You can get access just by clicking on this. It takes you over to this page right here. That's not the page, but I'm going to show it to you in one moment. Right here. Boom. Where's my mouse? Fuck. Right here, access to Signals Lab. That's where this brings you, and it gives you the 3 steps. You click on this CoinW link right here. It doesn't matter if you have another account. You got to create one through this link. Deposit $100 USDT. There's giveaways. There's bonuses for trading. There's so much stuff, and we have all the signals. And I showed some of those yesterday. There was like 10 or 12 different trades in there that's been shared that have been anywhere from 40 to 190% gains. But you sign up through this link, you find your UID, which this graphic shows you how to do. And then it says to verify, and it shows you exactly. And I want to I'm not harping on anyone. If you're having trouble paying attention to a 3-step process, you're going to fail at trading. make sure in life you're paying attention to all the details. In this case, it says /verify, no space there, and then a space, and then your UID that you get right here. This will not allow you, like for instance, right here, I see I wrote /verify 7777, whatever. I just put a random number. If you're getting an error, that means you either did not sign up through this link, or you provided the wrong number, or you just did not follow this format right here, /verify, and it's a /, not a backslash, space, and then your numbers. And then that gives you access to the Signals Lab, which is right here, where we've been sharing so many different setups, trades, and everything within here. And again, I have all this education content that's going to be in there as well that you get free access to when you do sign up here with CoinW, our channel partners. Now let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk a little bit about what is going on. By the way, make sure this says subscribed. Make sure this has all notifications on, because I am going to be moving to a shorter show that's happening. It's going to be, or even when it's not shorter, it's going to be more focused. And then in the afternoons and sometimes in the morning, I'm going to be doing member streams throughout the week, Tuesday through Friday. Member streams throughout the week. So those of you that are members here on BitLab YouTube, make sure you become a member here, or over at lab.bitlabacademy.com if you want that full suite of 120 lessons and the Discord and all that for just ongoing continued support. Both memberships get you access to the member streams, but a lot more of the altcoin content and some deeper alpha is going to be on those member streams. I'm going to try and keep the daily public shows a little bit more focused on certain topics. Also, some of the news and TA and Bitcoin and Ethereum, but a lot of the altcoin stuff is going to be moving to those member streams. So coming back into this, when we are looking at these smaller time frames, 7-minute chart does show that we do have this symmetrical triangle that is formed. If we do maintain within this could be all the way through this evening. You see, that's all the way into September. That's all the way, I almost said into September. On this small pattern here, on this 7-minute chart, this takes you all the way into tomorrow. Remember, we have some big event happening this evening here in the US that regardless of where you live, this is going to have impact, very likely could have impact on volatility, and it could have volatility in both directions. It could break down and then something else is said and comes up and then breaks back down, resolves, and then has a move. So my point is, right now, on days like today where we have this big likely scenario for volatility, we want to be a little bit more conservative in the moves we're making. If we are making moves, we're taking them with tight stop losses and being willing to have a stop loss hit. So many people have great strategy in theory that they start to enact, and then the market moves a little bit. The market moves a little bit, and what happens? They move their stop loss because they're still sure it's going to, and then they move it so far, they end up losing 20%, 30%, 60%, or even getting liquidated, because we get into what CryptoFace calls kamikaze trading. You're losing, you're like, well, screw it. I don't deserve it. That's what it is. The funny thing about trading, the funny thing about investing, is it highlights your relationship with yourself. It highlights your relationship for what you think you deserve. It highlights how you engage with emotional feelings. I'm not trying to get foo-foo here. This is just the truth. If you are reactive and emotional in your daily life, you're going to be emotional and reactive in these markets, which just means you're going to be giving up your money. That is why we have that group, not only the full BitLab Academy with all the courses from everything from the psychology of trading to what's going on with risk management, patterns and candlesticks and indicators and on-chain data course. All that stuff is in there at BitLab Academy, and also in the Discord with such a great community there. And then, of course, for those that are really actively trading and really getting into a lot of the swing trading and scalp trading, that's why we have all that information with CoinW there. And that link, again, is directly below. And remember, when you sign up and you deposit money, there's different giveaways and bonuses that you can get with free money to trade. It's up to $30,500 in bonuses, depending on different levels of participation, both deposits and volume traded. But you sign up with this link right there and go through those steps I just went over. Now, getting back into what we were talking about, we are The global liquidity is ticking up. We are really waiting on, where is that chart? We are really waiting on this this GMI, the liquidity index, to really start pushing up again, because we can see how tightly Bitcoin and this liquidity index really travels together. This should give you confidence that it's not so much that there's not confidence in Bitcoin right now. No, there's not confidence in risk. That's what we're seeing right now. And all indications, based on the fact that we're spending $3 billion a day just to pay for interest on the debts we have, the only thing that can happen is more money, quantitative easing, and so on and so forth. But when we're looking at what's happening here, and we see that Bitcoin has broken out of that 4-hour, on this 4-hour chart, this is actually the daily, sorry, has broken out on this and the 4-hour chart. That the RSI, this is most important, is breaking out, and RSI also is broken out of a downtrend, signaling that there's some desire, there's some speculative bullishness in the background that's not fully being realized in the market yet, but it's not fully confirmed yet. We could still have a move to the downside, retest back down here in the 54s. And the reason we say that is because when we're looking at this, you know, especially here on the 3-day chart, look at all of this liquidity below us. So looking at this chart right here, looking at this chart right here and seeing a move down to even retest this level, that's right about 54,400, maybe even potentially below that. And when we look at the liquidity, basically the liquidation heat maps, look at where all this, you know, we've got a little node here with a lot of volume, a lot of free liquidity in this area, just under 56. And what number did Matthew Hyland say? 56.1. So he's saying that we really need to hold this for the immediate near-term bullishness. But if we do lose this, I'm looking at a price coming down here to tap into 54,300, potentially even lower. Now, the reason that's important is because when we look at this, let's say on the daily chart, and turn on the BitLab Intelligence, one of the BitLab trading stack here, I want you to notice something. We've got a metric here. This has ticked up a little bit. The weekly VWAP's at 55,135. When we've lost this, historically, we have a pretty decent sized move to the downside. This is yellow line. So losing this, it doesn't mean we're going to get this move. But you can see each time we lose that weekly VWAP, this is basically an indication that the intent by the people trading in this market, especially the money that's moving it around, are looking at this saying, we're playing a positive spread, meaning a spread up, come back, buy. Oh, we couldn't get back above this. So then a little fake out. Now look, negative spread, back in, negative spread, back in, little fake out, negative spread. Now we broke above. Now look, positive spread, back, positive spread, back, positive spread. Oh, now it shows weakness here, and then negative spread, and we're just chopping as it is right now. So if we do come down here and lose 55,000, I'm looking down here in this basically $54,000 range for any sort of near-term bullishness hold on what's happening. If we do lose this level, I think, much like I've had this drawn for some time, that we will likely come back down and test this line right here, which you can see comes all the way back to, I mean, this really comes back all the way to here, January 2021. So there's a lot on the table right now in terms of opportunity if you're aware of both directions. I am leaning bullish on the macro, but in this short time frame, there's some trouble brewing if we can't hold certain levels. Now, looking at this on the 1-hour time frame, we got that clear on the BitLab. We got that clear signal right here with the bullish signals lining up right in here. And we got the trend shift. What we get? Boom, moved up, came back down, got another bullish signal. Boom, up. Now we're trying to maintain. We would really love, even if this came down here to this 56.4, 50, 56.1, 56, here on the 1-hour chart shows about 56.4. If we can hold above this, then we're still in the near term holding that bullish structure. So all things being equal, looking at everything right now, we need to be a little patient on today. This is actually a very nice bull flag we're looking at here if we can maintain this structure. But do not get chopped out on everything going on in this market right now, especially when we have such a big day today. We have the hearing tomorrow on the DeFi, which is going to be could likely have a big impact on prices. There's a couple things all the way going into next week economically, and also sort of crypto politically with what's going on the sector of what's happening tonight, and with that House Services Committee on DeFi tomorrow. And then, of course, we have the FOMC meeting next week. So I do think that there's still some sort of hesitation on the speculative market to really just all ape in long. And as we can see, looking back at some of these data points, where are we at? Looking back at some of these data points, short-term holders are selling, long-term holders are buying. I'm believing these individuals and taking advantage of any of those people that are doing this. And that's just how this market works. But with that being said, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. We're going to head over, for those that are watching on YouTube, we're going to redirect this and head over to the DGen Alpha stream here after this. But I love you guys. I appreciate you. Make sure you check out lab.bitlabacademy.com. Remember, that deal is going to be going away as soon as we break the previous all-time high. That's 15 days free. You can cancel anytime. And it is about 35% off for the life of your account. And you get access to so much incredible information there. Of course, you'll also have access to the member streams, which we're going to start doing near daily to give you guys a deeper off. Also, question and answer, ask me anything, training, everything going on there in the market. And of course, if you want to actively trade, make sure one of the easiest ways to support the channel is become a member of the YouTube. I think it's like $5 a month. You guys have no idea how much that helps us take care of some of the staff that we have and all the gear that we're getting, and travel for some of these conferences where I'm getting that alpha for you. You sign up right here, right below this video. Make sure your notifications are on, and Free Traders Group right here. This is where you click, you get in there, join CoinW and trade with us, and get involved in your future. And again, thank you for everybody that has been retweeting the page, which is this one right here. Thank you very much for being a part of the community. That's all I got today, everybody. Heading over to DGen Alpha. And with that, I'll see you guys tomorrow. I got some more. I got some really cool things coming. I got some really cool data that's coming to everybody that's a member of BitLab Academy. So those that are joined before that's announced, you're going to be getting access to some really cool stuff. Now, everybody, that's all I got. Adios, muchachos. Adios, muchachos. Thank you for coming.